There are four fundamental growth curves, and they're not exclusive of each other, but generally speaking, when you look at the a 5 or 10 year history of a company, they'll tend to fall into one of these four growth curve patterns. One is rapid, and you can see them: rapid, incremental, episodic, and plateau. So we're going to go through each one of them in sequence and chat just a little bit about them. The first one is the rapid growth curve. Now, when you're in the rapid growth curve business, you're basically in a business where everything is happening right. There's a lot of serendipity. You're in the right place at the right time with the right product at the right price, and you're mostly making right, smart decisions. That actually was a growth curve that looked pretty similar to the FlashNet internet dial-up business that I had. And while we did some smart things, we also were just in the right place at the right time. So there's almost always some element of serendipity that is related to a company that has a growth curve that looks like that. That doesn't mean that it's not a good thing. I mean, just because there's serendipity involved doesn't mean you can't ride that ride, and have a lot of fun. But it's awfully hard to engineer this kind of growth curve. So that's the rapid growth curve. Now, the next is the incremental growth curve. And here you have significantly more sort of controlled, stair-stepped growth. A great example of this would be Fuzzy's Tacos in the early days. Now, Fuzzy's has grown beyond this. Fuzzy's has a different kind of growth curve now. But in the beginning, when Fuzzy's Tacos was a single taco place on West Berry Street near TCU, and in about 1972 or 3, I think it was about then, when they opened that store. Now, I moved to the DFW area in 1974, and Fuzzy's was already here because I ate there. But there was only one Fuzzy's Taco. Now they have 30 or 40 of them around North Texas. But when there was only one Fuzzy's Taco, it was a new concept, and they did very well. They would have people lined up outside the door down the street a lot of days during lunch and early dinner. And a lot of them were students, but it didn't matter. They would have people lined up. There are only so many tacos you can make during an hour at a taco joint. You just simply have a limit to how many people you can get through, how much your kitchen can do. So once you max out the revenue for that location, if you own Fuzzy's Tacos, the only way for you to make more money is to open a second location. So that's the concept behind the stair step. You have to add facilities to be able to increase revenue. Now, when you add 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 after a period of time and you step back in time, that curve looks less stair-stepped and more gradual, and it might end up looking steep or it might end up looking like something else. But that is an incremental growth curve. And if you look closely enough at an incremental growth curve and ask the right questions, you can understand a lot about the nature of the business. Another is the episodic growth curve. Now, the episodic growth curve is best characterized by the idea that you have a small number of very valuable clients, and this growth curve indicates the loss and regaining of clients. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're in some sort of a consulting business, and you have a partner, and between you and your partner and a staff of 5 people, you do $100,000 a month. Now, that's a pretty good little consulting business. That's $1.2 million a year. And so you have 10 clients, each generating $10,000 a month, and you and your partner are taking home 30 grand a month each, so that's 60. You have another 40 to spend across your business facilities and paying your 5 employees. So you have $10,000 a month, 10 clients, you lose a client. Let's see, I'm gonna pull my little finger down. Now you have $90,000 a month coming in. Well, you and your partner don't really have to take much of a hit on your income, if any. You just have to tighten the belts a little bit. You lose another one. Now you're down to $80,000 a month. Well, you start to have some significant choices. Are you going to cut your employees, or are you going to cut your personal pay? Well, you're probably going to cut both, your employees and your personal pay. You lose one more and you're down to just 70,000 a month coming in, now you're starting to get nervous. You're cutting more staff and you're cutting your pay. The point is, when you only have a small number of clients and each one represents a big portion of your business, the loss of a client can be traumatic. The loss of 2 or 3 clients can be extremely traumatic. And so when you see a very episodic growth curve, that's typically indicative of a business that has a relatively small number of clients, each of which make a significant contribution to both revenue and the bottom line. And so in these kinds of businesses, you'll see a lot of peaks and valleys as you look at a historical revenue projection or chart. Then you have the plateau growth curve, which is typically indicative of a more mature company. Now, if you take any company that has been around for a long time, that's gotten large, and you step back far enough in time and you look at a big enough horizon, almost all of their charts will tend to look like this, because there's a limit to how fast a company can continue to grow its revenues. Even Apple is seeing a tailing off on its revenues. All companies reach a point in time where they simply cannot continue to grow at the same accelerated or high rate of growth because there's just not enough critical mass on the planet to do so. Otherwise, a company like Apple, if it continued its growth rate of 5 to 10 years ago, it would end up absorbing every company on the planet. You just simply can't continue to grow. However, when a company does reach a plateau, there are some limited choices for how you reinvigorate and accelerate the growth of the company. And those choices basically boil down to you bring in new management and or you bring in new products or new revenue streams. Now, often, one of the reasons a company reaches a plateau point is because existing management is entrenched in their traditional way of thinking, and they're not willing and or able to come up with innovative new business models and or profit products to be able to continue to grow the revenue of the company at a significant rate. So what will often happen is you'll see the selling of divisions, like with General Electric, or you'll see the entry into new markets. Now, you currently see Apple trying to engage and get into new service-oriented markets like Apple News and Apple TV and stuff like that, where they're creating content and curating content to try to get in on the streaming business wave, ride that wave. Apple's probably not going to be able to come up with a new product as important to the revenue stream as the iPhone was, because there's just probably not that many new products out there. That's kind of the current thinking. So almost all companies reach a point where they simply cannot continue to grow and they start to plateau. And that's usually when you'll see the board of directors begin to come in and start changing management teams so they can get some fresh thoughts in and break away from the traditional thinking that usually gets ingrained into senior management teams.